Question number 1, and this comes from Zaria on YouTube. And she says that gluten is used to increase protein content without throwing calcium and phosphorus levels out of whack. That's why you see gluten in meat meals a lot in performance kibbles. Quality protein sources are difficult to source affordably, which is why expensive meat-heavy brands are on par with low-quality kibbles when it comes to excess minerals. And the question is a bit all over the place, and I just want to straight ahead say that I do disagree wholeheartedly with this statement. Gluten and wheat gluten is inflammatory, is somewhat a refined ingredient, and it's something that isn't biologically appropriate for dogs. We can debate whether a tiny percent of gluten is a good enough filler and a good enough ingredient for our dogs. The problem becomes, as with everything, whenever these companies take the mickey, quite frankly, and start putting a lot of filler in our foods. And the filler is not high quality filler. The filler is wheat gluten, which is one of the cheapest sources of feed that there is. So whenever people start making excuses or rationalizations for why gluten or rice or wheat or barley or any of these very cheap ingredients, because they are very, very cheap, are put in high quantities in kibble, it's literally there's nothing to say about it, because it just isn't true. It's a filler, it's a low quality food, it's not biologically appropriate for dogs, and it's something I would never feed my dog. Whether we talk about calcium and phosphorus levels, out of whack or not, I don't think that if your dog is eating a variety of wonderful meats and a variety of wonderful ingredients, that those phosphorus levels or calcium levels are going to be out of whack at all. I think that a dog that eats a species appropriate diet, a biologically appropriate diet, and one diet where you know what you are giving the dog, and what you are giving the dog is tailor made for them, then it's just game over. With regard to performance kibbles, there's no such a thing. There isn't such a thing as performance kibbles and kibbles for a variety of different needs. All dogs, barring obviously health issues, should eat roughly the same. They should try to mimic, they should try to replicate the whole prey ratios. And then she says that quality protein sources are difficult to source affordably, which is why expensive meat-heavy brands are on par with low-quality kibbles. And yeah, this is something that bears focusing on when it comes to dog food, and this is something not many people pay attention to. Pea protein, potato protein, lentil protein, it's indeed protein, but it isn't the same protein as lamb protein, chicken protein, or other animal protein. Animal protein, in my opinion, contains better amino acids and is of a better caliber than vegetable protein or any other protein you can encounter. Egg protein is wonderful, for example, but pea protein or potato protein is not very good. It isn't very good at all, actually. So again, it's another filler. Is it protein? Yes, but it isn't very good. So whenever we talk about crude protein, the crude protein ratios, which is what Zaria is referring to, a lot of the lower quality kibbles will display a high amount of this percentage. But it begs the question, where is that protein coming from? That protein is coming from low quality foods, from filler, from cheaper sort of food. It's a lot better to have lamb protein or chicken protein or any other high quality animal protein than it is pea protein or potato protein. So yes, I do agree with that second statement, but gluten and making excuses as to why gluten is great for dogs or good for dogs, I don't think that is right at all. Another listener says that rice is recommended because you are eliminated fat completely and more complex starches are more difficult to absorb. And again, this is another misnomer. Rice is an inflammatory ingredient. Rice is a grain. And if we look at our dogs' mouths, we can see that these bad boys here aren't designed to chew on wheat or barley or corn or rice or oats or anything that we would probably chew on like a carrot. So is rice recommended for dogs? No, it isn't. Dogs do not produce salivary amylase in the mouth, which is an enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates. So we don't recommend it for dogs. Rice, excess carbohydrates metabolize into triglycerides in the liver, and this is fat. So whenever we say triglycerides, this is extra fat. And I'll put it to you this way: if you eat pasta 5 times a day, or if you eat rice 5 times a day, and you eat a lot of it, is it low fat? Is it a low fat food? Yes, it is. Are you going to put weight on? Yes. Why? Excess carbohydrates convert into sugar. That excess sugar converts into stores as adipose tissue, which is your fat, your love handles, your beer belly or your rice belly in this occasion, or what have you. So rice is not recommended. It's not something we recommend when you are eliminating fat completely. And you shouldn't eliminate fat completely unless you have a dog with an extremely serious health issue, because fat is absolutely vital to a dog's body. The only reason why you would reduce the amount of fat, and you would do so temporarily, would be if your dog had acute pancreatitis, in which case obviously your dog's pancreas is compromised and cannot break down all those fats. But the lipase, excess lipase in the blood, So barring that, if you are trying to feed a dog a low fat diet, the worst thing you can do is substitute fat for carbohydrates. Because again, if we are feeding our dog too many carbohydrates, those carbohydrates are going to then convert into triglycerides. They are going to convert into fat in the liver. And that's not something that is recommended for dogs. So do I like rice for dogs? I don't like rice for dogs. Is there an argument whereby if you feed your dog a kibble with 5% rice is okay for a dog? It probably will be okay for a dog. The problem is whenever rice becomes 30, 40, 50. There's a couple bags of food in the UK that are up to 67% rice, which is outrageous. It's very expensive rice whenever you dissect the whole brand of food, and it just isn't very good. So no, rice, I don't like rice at all. I don't think it's biologically appropriate, and I don't think our dogs deserve to be fed rice. Thank you for your question. And by the way, if you want to speak to us directly, you can click in the link below, go to consultation, and you will be taken to a tab where you can book a consultation with a member of the team. Dog on Chappy dog food. Thoughts? Well, Chappy is a brand of dog food that is recommended by vets sometimes whenever a dog is trying to put weight on, or whenever a dog has a sensitive stomach. And it does work if it's coupled with steroids or if it's coupled with another treatment that the vet might administer. And with these things, anytime a vet recommends a food and then prescribes something like Apoquel or another steroid or another medicine, another treatment, and then the dog gets somewhat better, is the dog getting better because of the food, because of the steroids, or because of both? What is going on there? We don't know. It's hard to tell. My gut instinct is that medicine is very efficacious, is wonderful, and they do work. Apoquel works wonders. It works really well. It suppresses the dog's itchiness, but I don't like Chappy, and I don't like a lot of the prescription foods or any prescription diets by vets. Why? Well, you only have to look at the ingredients in Chappy, and the ingredients are horrendous. Those ingredients would never touch my dog, and I hope they don't touch your dog either. So, dog on Chappy dog food, thoughts? I don't like Chappy. I think it's a cheap food. I think it's full of filler. I think it's full of low quality ingredients. I don't think Chappy is a great thing for your dog at all, you know. Another listener or viewer asks, what about dried rabbit ears without hair? Well, you know, I mean, yeah, do I like rabbit ears without hair? Yeah, they're not bad, but why not give the dog the full rabbit ear with the fur? Fur is a wonderful thing. Fur is insoluble fiber. It passes down the stomach. It cleanses the stomach to a certain extent. It's part of what the dog would eat. If the dog caught a wild rabbit and ate a wild rabbit, they would eat the fur as well. So yeah, fur-less products are somewhat popular with people, and people do buy them. Am I against them? No, I'm not against them. I think they are still wonderful, they are still natural, but a rabbit ear contains fur, and I like to give my dog furry things. They are natural. Again, they're a source of insoluble fiber, and I just think that the less process and the less we tinker with dogs' food and dogs' treats, the best. But do I like rabbit ears without hair? Yeah, I like them. And by the way, I'll put a link below to some of the manufacturers I would recommend, so that you can buy from there if you wish to do so. I'm not affiliated with them in any way or form, but there's an affiliate link below. So yeah. So what food do you recommend for a golden retriever? Well, I have a golden, and he's the love of my life. And my golden retriever, believe it or not, since I learned about dog food and since I learned about the biologically appropriate diet, I learned about the whole prey ratios, I learned about digestion, I learned about the gluconeogenesis, which is the ability your dog and my dog have to break down protein and fat and convert those into sugar, into glucose for the body to be powered, and that they do not need any dietary carbohydrates whatsoever. My dog doesn't eat anything but meat. He follows a strict 80-10-10, which is 80%, give or take obviously, as I always say, lean meat, 10% offal, of which 5% is liver, again give or take, and 10% is bone. In terms of treats, he will get some treats with a bit of pumpkin in the treat, or any other parsley or botanical, like parsley or rosemary, oregano, all that sort of stuff, garlic, but that would comprise maybe less than 1% of the dog's diet. The dog primarily eats lamb tripe, beef heart, chicken carcasses. Obviously everything comes in tubs because it's raw fed, and I don't DIY the food, we don't DIY the food, but the dog only eats meat. We have tried to replicate what the dog would eat in the wild. These whole prey ratios are bang on about so much, and the dog's coat is wonderful, the dog's teeth are wonderful, he is in top shape, he is happy, he's lean, the poos aren't big at all, they're not smelly, everything is wonderful. The dog only eats meat. The dog, we recognize that the dog needs what the dog needs. The dog doesn't need rice, wheat, barley, corn, soy. They don't need meat and animal derivatives. They don't need low quality ingredients. They need something that's biologically appropriate. They need something that's tailored for them. They need what they need. And I think the best you can do for your dog is to feed them something biologically appropriate. And that is what I would recommend you feed your golden retriever. But nevertheless, I will link down below some of the foods I would recommend for a golden retriever, or if you have a corgi or a husky or whatever, it doesn't really matter. I wanted to do a little segment on things to distract your dog with, enrichment toys, enrichment ideas. And this is something that we encounter every single day. People come through the door and they will ask for things to keep the dogs occupied for the longest time, and they just want to buy a toy or a soft ball or something like that, and within seconds the toy is gone, the toy has been destroyed. And this is because the dog has a lot of pent-up energy. The dog doesn't get exercised and the dog doesn't get stimulated. And the first thing I will say, since I'm not a trainer, but I've listened to this advice being given so many times by different trainers, is if you are walking your dog 20 minutes a day, 40 minutes a day, the easiest way for your dog to get a bit more from the enrichment and a bit more exercise is to double the amount of exercise you give the dog. So if you're giving the dog 40 minutes a day, another 40 minutes at night would do wonders. If that is not possible, you should engage the dog's brain and you should tire that dog's brain, because otherwise the dog is going to get accustomed to the same walk day after day. And if you have a smart breed, or if you have a working breed, something like a Cocker Spaniel or a very active breed, that will drive you crazy, and it will, it'll destroy your house, it'll destroy your sofas, and it won't be happy for you. It won't be a happy experience for you whatsoever. So there are 3 things I think every pet parent should have for their dog. The first one is a dispenser, and they do these in a wide range of shapes and forms. There's cones, there's balls, there's things with ridges, and any of these dispensers are wonderful for dogs. And this is something that we should all have, and we should all give our dog on rotation. They should know what to do with it. It keeps them entertained. You can barter with the dog's daily allowance of food. You can barter with the dog's treats. You can put any amount of different things in the dispenser, and these are wonderful. The second thing is a snuffle mat. And these snuffle mats are again very popular, and they are popular for a reason, because they are quite big and these are quite substantial, and you can hide again different treats, different kibbles underneath the snuffle mat. And these again are very versatile. The ridges are pretty good, and these are something we recommend. We recommend them for puppies, we recommend them for teenage dogs, we recommend them for working breeds, we recommend them for active breeds, and these are wonderful. And then you have different toys and you have different puzzles that you can give the dog. And It depends, because for example, my golden is not very clued up, so if you give him something too hard, he won't want to play with it for a long time. So make sure that if you have a dumb breed or a dumb dog like my dog, that you don't give them something too difficult, because they won't want to get engaged with it. And make sure you teach them how, because they do learn. Dogs do learn, by all means, you know, they will learn how to do something. So make sure you spend some time with them trying to figure out the puzzle. And then again, you can hide different treats and you can hide different things. And it's a pretty good thing to do. It's a pretty good thing to build rapport, to spend time with your dog, and it's a pretty good way to tire your dog out. So those are pretty good, and those are 3 things I would always have if I were to, and I do keep them, if I were to try to tire my dog out. And those are something that I would always have, I would always keep in my house, and I would just take them with me, and they will be part of the rotation. If you give the dog variety, if you give your dog different things to do, they will not get accustomed to the same routine, and by them not getting accustomed to the same routine, they will have to use that brain. And anytime your dog uses their brain, that tires them out. And a tired dog is an obedient dog, and a tired dog tends to be a better dog and a dog that doesn't destroy your house. So that's something to think about. Anyway,